Hi, my name is Jaecho. I'm partner at Vaturi Cho. Today, I'll explain to you about how we could close a deal in a real estate. So without further ado, let's jump in. So the first thing that we have to talk about is a closing date. So closing date is date that we exchange the money and then we register title, we register mortgage. It's for you to actually bring in the money and to close a deal. So that's the date that you already agree with the seller, and the bank already decide that on this date you'll get your mortgage and close the deal. So this is the closing date that you already decided. So we're gonna move on, and we're gonna have to meet before the closing date. I mean, a lot of people get anxious about, okay, closing is like a week from now. Why have I not, contacted by your office? Now everything happens probably 2 to 3 days before, because before the close date, we need something called statement of adjustments. Okay, what is a statement of adjustment? It's the amount of money that the seller wants, you to deliver to close a deal. But what does that have? Like that would have, say you close it on, say, January 4th. Now they paid their, say, property tax until January 30th. So we do need to do that adjustment. So because there are some things they prepaid, we have to give them, we will get that 4 days, and we have to give them the rest of the 20 days, 26 days back. So that's one thing that we have to do. We have to wait for the adjustment to come in. The next one that we have to talk about is title. Okay, so you're taking title. Okay, what does that mean? This is how it's going to show up in the land registry office. Now, there's a few ways you could take the title. The first thing is joint tenancy. The second thing is tenancy in common, as you see in the slides. Now, joint tenancy is when one dies, the other person takes the title through the right of survivorship. So joint tenancy is mostly what people do when they're spouses, when they're common law partners. Now, tenancy in common is what you would do when you are actually doing an investment. Like when you're doing an investment, if you do 50-50, so that's what you would do. Tenancy in common, like, if I'm investing with my, say, friend, I would do 50%, he would do 50%. That's how we do a tenancy in common. And joint tenancy, a lot of people don't know, is joint tenancy. When you're in joint tenancy with your spouse, at any given time, you could actually change into tenancy in common by registering a notice of change. But when you do the tenancy from joint tenancy to tenancy in common, because with your spouse, you're 50% ownership, it could only change into 50 and 50% tenancy in common. Okay. Now, don't worry too much. I'll explain this to you. But then all you have to understand is that there's different ways to take title. Now, if you're buying it by yourself, then you're going to be sole owner. So that's going to be third one that says sole owner. So that's something that we're going to do. Now, next we're going to talk about mortgage. Okay, so mortgage, it's probably the single biggest piece of the puzzle that we need to fit into this whole closing transaction, because without mortgage, you can't probably, I don't, normally most people need a mortgage. I mean, I have very few people, I've seen very few people buying it outright, meaning that they don't need to take on a mortgage, so people are retiring, I've seen that, but people, first home buyers, very rarely it happens. So you need to get a mortgage. Now, how the mortgage works is that you have to talk to your mortgage broker or your bank, and they'll qualify you, and then they'll have to send their document to us. And essentially what happens is I become the lawyer for you and lawyer for the bank. They hire me to do the mortgage transaction as well. Now, there's going to be some document that you need to sign, application. And then once the application is done, the bank will send me the documents, by way of instruction, that some documents that we need to prepare and some things we have to do for them to fund the deal, meaning that they will send the money on the day of the closing. So the mortgage documents will probably need to be signed, I would say, between 2 to 3 days before, because we need about 3 days to request for the funds, okay, depending on the property. The next thing we're going to talk about is a survey. Okay, what is a survey? Now, survey shows boundaries of your property. If it's a condominium, you're not going to have a survey. But if it's a single detached house or semi-detached house or freehold condominiums, townhouse, will have survey. Now, older property may not have a survey, so you might want to put a condition if you haven't done so. You could ask the other seller asking for a copy of the survey. They may not have it, so you could actually go to the city and request a survey. If they already have a copy done, then you could just pay $20-25 to get a survey. But if you don't have one, you have to spend about probably $1,500 to $2,500, hire a surveyor, conveyancer to do a survey for you. I mean, is that important? I mean, some people like to have it, some people don't, really think about this. Now, if you think that older properties, you might want to have it because often I see sometimes when they do the renovations, when they do the fences again, they realize there's encroachment of a property, which means the other property, they actually put a fence into your property, and there's something called adverse possession where if they do that for more than 10 years without you knowing, ever disputing it, that becomes their property. So I've seen that happening with the legal litigation in my career. So that's something that you might want to look into. Now, ensuring title to your property. Now, title, one of the things that we're going to talk about is that we have to do something called a title insurance. Now, this is something that bank would require for you to put on. This is ensuring your title because bank want maximum security for their collateral. So they want title insurance on their property, and this makes sure that if the seller hasn't paid a water bill, seller hasn't paid a property tax, then say it was like not the seller that we're dealing with, it's 2 sellers ago, like maybe 20 years ago. Then somehow they found out, they come back to you and say, oh, you haven't paid this. But then you say, well, no, it's not my fault. It's the seller or the owner 20 years ago. Now, the property tax and water bill, how it works is that it actually goes to the property, not to the owner. So whoever is the owner right now owns a title to the property, is responsible for these water bills or property taxes. So if you without title insurance, you will have to hire a lawyer, someone like me, to find that person and ask them to pay or repay it. We actually get it indemnified by that person, which is quite a bit of process, and it takes a lot of money to do it. Now, when you have a title insurance, you don't have to worry about it. They will take care of that for you. Now, you will have to pay the title insurance fee. Now, don't worry about these slides. I mean, the reason I have these slides is that just so that you have all these, some context to it. But these slides are actually are made out of our opening letter. So when I send you the opening letter, it's like 3 to 4 pages a letter, but who reads these letters? So that's why I'm doing this video right now, so that I can explain to you what's in our initial letter. Now, so title insurance, going back to that, title insurance will pay. We don't have to worry about it. We'll just make a claim. Title insurance will pay for it, and then they'll come back and go after these owners to get it reimbursed. So it's a peace of mind. And my analogy is this is single biggest investment of your life. Why would you not have the maximum insurance, right? So, and other than that, I mean, bank will require you to put it on because banks actually has 80% of a stake in your property because they're lending you the money, right? Because they want maximum security for your collateral. So this will cost you about up to $400,000 is $180, and every $1,000 after that it's about $1. So if you have like $1 million property, it will cost you probably a couple $100, $300 to $400. Yeah. So we'll probably have to look into that. So intended use. Sometimes this comes up because we have to understand that this property is for zoning purposes, or most likely what happens in condominiums when they do the renovations. There's a condominium bylaw which doesn't allow you to like tear down a wall if there's a so like a wall in between your kitchen and your living room, but you want to have an open concept. You open up the wall, but that's against the bylaw. So that sort of things that we have to understand, and we'll have to make sure that the previous seller did not violate any intended use. So we would ask the seller to sign on statutory declaration and saying that we have not violated any of the intended use. This gets a little complicated if you're buying a cottage or like if you're buying a farmland, but we'll probably look into that when you are buying a cottage or waterfront cottage, such as. Now, next one is a fire insurance. Now, you need to have a fire insurance. Condominiums would have a fire insurance already, so I mean, mortgages would just want that copy of the binder. I would recommend for you to get a content insurance and the water damage insurance, because condominiums, most likely fire is very unlikely to happen, because these days condominiums have sprinklers and stuff like that. But most damages are actually caused by flood, overflow of toilet, or you forgot to turn up your tap in the bathroom, or there's leakage in the washing machine connections. That's sort of the common damages or litigations that I see. I'm dealing with one litigation where there was a flood in our unit, and it flooded like five units underneath, as well as common room. So there was about $100,000 damage. Now you'll be like, oh, how about my insurance company? Now, your insurance company will not cover this unless it was one-time occurrence that it just snapped off today, it just flooded your unit. But it happened over a period of time, it will not cover that. So I would recommend my clients to, once you move into the condominium, have someone come in to check all the valves, check all the connections. The one that you don't normally see. What is that? Your connection for your washing machine, your laundry machines, like stuff like that, washing dryers, and just make sure that the valves are all fastened properly. But fire insurance, on the other hand, it's when you have a house, you have to have a fire insurance. So we would need a binder. The first place to look for is your car insurance company. Your car insurance company will give you like a multi-line discount. So look for your car insurance company. They'll give you fire insurance. So like you need to have a fire insurance. Utilities, you need to change the name of the account. So seller will close their account as of the closing date. You need to call and open the utilities, and you say, well, is that something you could do for us? Used to be about 10 years ago, not anymore. So because there's so much mixed up, we call, they take down wrong information, they forgot to open an account. So what we now have to do is that we'll give you the phone numbers to you, and you have to call probably a few days before, a week before, and let them know that you are opening a new account as of that closing date, and give them a property address, and they'll just open an account for you, right? Property tax, we will inform the property tax authority, so you don't have to account property, you don't have to change it. But it depends. On Toronto, you don't have to. Markham, you do. So Vaughan, you have to. So we will just advise you. My team will just let you know, send you an email, or call you, just let you know that, okay, you need to do certain things. This will happen hopefully a week before, but be mindful that you have to open a new utility account, you have to get a fire insurance binder. Okay, keys. Okay, so what happens is usually we get the keys a night before or day of. They courier the package, all the signed package, with the keys to our office, and that's how you pick it up. We also courier all the signed documents and the money to the seller. These days, because of COVID, what usually happens is they do a lockbox. So it's just touchless transaction, contactless transaction. So how when you do the showings, you have a lockbox, exact same way that you would have a keys in the lockbox, and they will just ask you to give you the lock code to the lockbox after the closing. So you would just go pick it up and open the door. Now you will get a one key. Now what does that mean? You will get a key to the front door. Well, how about keys to the mailbox? How about fobs to the condominiums, or the garage openers for single detached house? The customary thing we do is that they'll put that on the kitchen table, and then you will just get a one key to the front door. Now, signing. Okay, most important part of it, because you need to sign some documents. Usually happens 2 to 3 days before the closing. Meaning we have to get the statement of adjustment from the other side. Meaning, I talked about this in the beginning, where the seller has to come up with all the figures, less the deposit. Okay, this is how much we need from you, from a purchaser. We need to get that so that I can ask you, okay, so come with this amount of money, because you have to pay land transfer tax, which is, everybody has to pay a tax when the title is transferred. So how much is the land insurance tax plus legal fee and plus a difference in down payment, and then we're gonna get the rest from the mortgage. So we need to know that figure before I can tell you you have to come in to sign this document. So that will happen usually a day before, 2 days before, and then we'll ask you to come in, sign when that's ready. Or these days we'll do it online through a video conference. I'll see you on a video conference, like you see me right now. You'll be signing some documents on a Hello sign, that's which we use, or DocuSign, and I'll certify or commission the documents for you. Now, identification. Usually we need a 2-piece of ID before we close. I mean, this is something that we would ask in the beginning anyways. Driver's license, your PR card, or your citizenship. Unfortunately, health card is not one of the approved ID, so we need something else. Or your credit card front and back as well. Yeah, that's it. So this information that I just talked about is for when you try to buy a property. This is the typical steps that we have to go through, and I'll be sending you a opening letter which has all this information. So I hope that it was helpful, and then before we meet, and this will be something that you could you would understand, and then we could have a chat a little bit more on other detailed discussion about some of the things you have a question on. Okay, have a great day. Bye.